How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I'm sitting here with Trevor and Danny, and we're got another episode for you guys. Happy to have Danny back. He's been in Reno for, what has it been, 3 weeks now?
Yeah, it's the first weekend back in 3 weeks.
But
and I worked all weekend.
Yeah, work and playing golf, I see. That's all we've been getting is you playing golf and getting pictures of some extraordinary things. I'll let you tell a story. Go for it.
Well, it was a sunny afternoon in Reno at the Kylie Ranch Links course. It was a hole 8. I was going to hit an 8-iron, 155 yards into the wind, but I decided to pull out the 7 because a little gust came up. It's a very fortuitous choice of club as I hit the ball, and it happened to go in one shot. I think it's an ace is what they call it. These kids nowadays, they call it a hole-in-one, I think.
Yeah, long drawn out. He got a hole-in-one, and for people that don't understand what a hole-in-one is, it's probably the most amazing thing that could happen to a golfer ever. Everything has to be perfect. I don't even understand how it happened. There's people that have played golf for 30, 40 years, and it's never happened. It's like, what I was trying to think of it this morning, trying to think of something to compare it to, and I couldn't think of anything. Even bowling a 300 in bowling is not even close, because that happens frequently.
Yeah.
A hole-in-one is rare.
Yeah, I was looking up odds for it and stuff after, because the guy I went golfing with was like naming off these odds that he read. His name's Harry. He was reading off all these odds of like, oh, it's like, it's insane. It's like 25,000 to 1 or something like that. But it's like, I think the odds were like 12,000 to 1 or something like that for just a scratch normal golfer person. Like someone that's not a professional. Professional, it's still like 250 to 1 or like 2,500 to 1. Some ridiculous odds. It's insane.
I wonder if getting attacked by a shark is more likely than getting a hole-in-one.
I don't know. I feel like everything has to be perfect.
You just watched Shark Week.
I was going to say like getting struck by lightning, but I know the odds of that are like crazy. Yeah. So shark was more likely to me.
Yeah, it was insane.
I don't know, but so when it happened, how did it feel after the fact? Were you even able to play?
No, because I didn't think it went in first off, and I was walking up with the putter. That's why in all the pictures I have a putter in my hand, because I didn't think it went in. And the guy I was golfing with was like, no, that went in. That was a hole-in-one. I was like, no, it rolled off the back into the bunker. I know it did. And I walked up. I didn't see a ball anywhere, and then I just I knew it right then. My heart started beating so fast. I was like, oh my gosh! And I went and I looked in the thing. I was like, I got a hole-in-one. I can't believe it.
I was so pissed.
Shot a
off.
7 the next hole.
I was so envious when you sent me the picture. I was playing golf when you sent it to me, and I was like, this mother. I was so mad.
Well, the best part was Tyler, our friend. I sent him a picture of the picture of it. Of me pointing at the hole and holding the ball, and then the scorecard, and he says, "Oh, hey, you're such a dork. Nice socks." Like he didn't realize that it was a hole, and then about 10 minutes later, I get a text message from him going, "Oh, you got a hole-in-one. Holy shit!" He didn't realize it at first, and I was like, "That's how I felt." I couldn't understand it. It was weird. I wasn't jumping around or anything. I was just more like, oh my gosh.
I would have quit. I would have just dropped my clubs and be like, all right, going home, done.
The worst part was I teed off with the ball on the next hole, and if I had hit it in the water, because it's like you have to curve to the right. You have to have a major slice to land on that green. It? Yeah, oh yeah, I'm gonna put it in encase it and put the scorecard and everything. I mean, because it's never gonna happen again. It's never gonna happen again to me.
I mean, it shouldn't happen again.
No, it's not. I never thought I'd get one. I never thought I'd see one.
I mean, if you play for another 50 years,
yeah, but I play what? This is the most I've played in ages. I played 4 times or something like that.
All I'm saying, Trevor, we're just starting to get you into golf like crazy. If you get a hole-in-one before I get a hole-in-one, I'm done. I'm just not going to play anymore. They're just going to put the clubs in the closet, call it a day. It's bullshit. But
I feel like Noel was triggered.
I was very triggered, and which transitions perfectly into our next topic is trigger words. I don't know if there's anything that triggers you guys but for me, I don't have any technical trigger words, but I know trigger words for Megan, my fiance. The word crazy for her is the trigger word. I know if I even start to say the word, it's like World War III inside our house. So I use it sparingly. Sometimes it's just like you're in the heat of the argument and you say it and then you're like, oh shit.
And then the whole rest of the time you're trying to rationalize why you said it. It's because you're acting this.
Yeah. There's no other word to explain crazy other than crazy.
Yeah.
But I should definitely choose my words more carefully. But is there any trigger words for you guys? Stuff that just grinds your gears?
I have more like pet peeve type stuff when it comes to triggers. I don't have anything that like right away jumps out and is like, oh, that's it, I'm gonna get angry. But because I'm pretty mellow, really. But it's things that when people will use extreme words, you know, like, oh, that's awesome, or literally, and I'm more guilty of this than anyone. I will say like, literally, that is the coolest thing that ever happened. But when you say things like that, you're putting such a high level of what you're saying on it without even realizing it. Like if you say something's awesome, awesome is, what is the definition of like awesome? It's like fear-inspiring, godlike. Something that's awesome is something that's going to change like your perception on things. And you can be like, fuck, dude, that coffee was awesome this morning. And it's like, really? It's not awesome. Like, use a better word. Just use the dictionary a little bit better. But I do that all the time. So I really, like, I guess I trigger myself.
Trev?
I don't know if any words, like certain words trigger me, but when people say stuff that are incorrect in a sentence, that definitely grinds my gears.
Grammar triggered?
Oh, it bugs me for some reason.
You like a there and there guy?
No, not
that kind of stuff.
No, that's a typing error. Yeah. Nobody can see the YRE or whatever when you're saying it. It's just, I don't know, like.
I know what you're saying though, because like you'll run into people that are really like will think they're educated on a subject or something, and they'll use a word that's totally out of context. Man, that's the most frustrating thing in the world.
Another thing that bugs me is when people are talking about like a movie that like I enjoy, like Star Wars, and they say like characters' names wrong. Oh, it bugs the shit out of me, especially when they act
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but like when they act like they're like the biggest Star Wars fans ever, and they say shit wrong, like it said Boba Fett, they say like Boba Fett. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I know you're a big fan. Like,
fighters, that's how it is for UFC. Like if a guy comes up and starts talking like, oh yeah, Gustafsson, you know, he's really good, you know, or like they'll just mispronounce people's names so horribly. My big thing is like I love Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and like to hear people say, oh yeah, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you know, with all those different consonants in her Polish name. I'm like, oh, you're not a fan.
It cracks me up when we talk about trigger words, because I know Trevor's like, you say you don't have any trigger words, but like there's so many things that just piss you off.
I'm just a very agitated person when it comes to certain things.
Everything's a fiction.
I can't pick one word that triggers me.
I can't fiction.
Yeah.
Danny, you were talking about the word awesome, but I want you to, so what is your hierarchy? If you were to describe your cup of coffee, what would be the top of the top? Because obviously that's awesome to you. What would be underneath awesome?
Incredible.
Because
that's a little bit better. I mean, that's still like kind of extreme, but that would be better, more believable, because that incredible is like you can't describe, you know, the emotions you're feeling or whatever. That's what I think incredible would mean.
Where would epic be?
Ooh. Somewhere in the hipster lexicon, I guess. Cup of coffee was epic, bro.
Epic, bro.
What about amazing?
Amazing. See, amazing is kind of tough too, because when you actually start breaking down these words, they become so commonplace with how we say things. But if you start breaking down what amazing is like jaw dropping. Like you take a sip of the coffee and you're like, wow, oh wow, this was amazing. Like
just
that's
blew
really
out everyone's eardrums just now.
Exactly. Good. Now you understand the level that amazing is on.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when customers come up to me and they'll be like, "Oh, how's your day?" This and that, and I'll be like, "Oh, it's fantastic." And be like, "Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, what's been going on in your day?" I'm like, "Oh, well, what was I supposed to say? It's been good. It's been swell.
37 burgers this morning, bro."
Yeah, like it's funny that just there's word associations that can just be completely just. I mean, different people have different characteristics for what words they use. Like you say, "Awesome" to you is like the top of the top.
Yeah.
Awesome to me is like, it was okay.
It's a generational thing too, for sure. I'm sure there's words that we say that older people are like, these kids.
Well, they
I'm
use neat.
Triggered. Yeah,
We're neat for them.
Yeah. Oh, pshaw.
Oh my god.
No, literally, my grammar book, like growing up, they had like it was written in the 50s, so it was like all the, you know, you're learning like what a you know, like an exclamation word is, you know, like we would say like, oh shit, or like, you know, what the heck, you know, and they're like, pshaw, hark, you know, and it's like that was only like 60 years ago.
Well, there's regional stuff too, like the word hella. Hella is just strictly a California thing. You go anywhere else, you don't hear it.
No, you don't. And people look at you weird when you say it.
Oh.
Yeah. Because when I lived in Florida, they were like, what is hella? I'm like, oh, that's just how we say things. Like, I don't know. Soda and pop. Yeah. That's a trigger word for me. Oh my goodness. It's literally soda pop. It is soda water that they're using in with it. So you can't call it pop, But the whole East Coast is like hardcore pop.
Yeah, you go try to change that up. Good luck with that.
Good luck.
That one triggers me. There's my trigger word.
Pop. Okay.
It is kind of annoying, but I think it's just because we're California bred. So
Yeah. Another one that I know when it's going to be funny because people are going to listen to this podcast. They're going to hear us say these words and they're just going to, their skin's going to crawl with the word moist.
Yeah.
People hate the word moist.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Everyone hates that. There's whole videos.
But how do you describe something? If you're eating a delicious cake, and mind you, I would say an awesome cake,
Yeah.
it's probably moist.
Literally the most awesome cake, the most incredible cake I've ever had.
But how else do you describe it? You can't say the cake is wet. Some people don't even like the word fucking wet. So what are you supposed to do at that point? But the word moist, I know a lot of girls that just they hear it and
I know
they
a lot
cringe.
of guys that don't
that's
like that word either.
I mean, it is a weird word. I'm not gonna say it's not,
Moist.
yeah, there's a lady at work that says moist whenever they describe cake for when we do like a birthday. Because I always laugh at it because it is a trigger word, and so she just says it just to kind of get on me. I'm like, it doesn't bug me. I just know a lot of people. I know a lot of people that would just be losing their minds right now.
Yeah, that's weird. Moist.
It is
moist.
Yeah.
And then there's
we lost like listeners right there.
Oh, for sure.
Click.
And then the words where if you're really just trying to piss somebody off, like Trev, you were saying earlier, the C word, you really want to get under a girl's
Cunt.
skin. Yes.
Don't just say it. Come on.
I can't. My hands start sweating when people start saying
Yeah.
That's Noel's trigger
Dude,
word.
that's one where like if someone says that, especially like a dude saying it to a girl, everyone in the room's like, oh,
Glasses drop.
yeah. You're like, that's this silent jaw dropping word in the room. Everyone's just like, oh,
This is amazing.
It's about to go down.
That's when you're at the supermarket and you hear it in the next aisle. You're like, holy shit.
Yes.
I need to listen right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I still haven't figured out if that word would be worse than saying crazy to Megan. I haven't tested the
You don't know what your
feeling yet.
C word is.
Yeah, no. I'm pretty sure the C word for her is just the word crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you gotta find out.
I wish you guys could be here for it just once. I don't know. It's just
I feel like we won't get the same reaction.
I have to like videotape it one day. just everybody be ready for this reaction.
Hidden
But,
cameras.
Danny, you and Jackie, I mean, you guys don't have a trigger word or anything that you've said to her that just makes her go nuts on you?
No, I just know I would never say the C word to her.
Well, yeah,
Because we
that's
talked about
given.
that before this podcast, and she's like, oh, I'd slap him.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I would be okay
Trev,
with that.
you
probably.
with Iris, is there anything that just grinds her gears?
I used to say pathetic was my word for
Like
describing.
you would call her pathetic?
I wouldn't call her pathetic. I would call. I mean, it's pretty fucked up now that I say it, but like,
Speak the truth, man. Speak the truth.
like
She's
I
going to
used,
listen.
I used to be like, "Oh, that's pathetic," or like describing something that she would do or something. She's like, "Stop fucking saying that." I'm like, "All right."
And then she started going to the gym, and now she's calling you
like,
pathetic.
who's pathetic now, bitch? Me. I'm pathetic.
That's so funny.
So yeah, I don't say that anymore. It's just like one time I started saying like, "Puh," and then she gave me a look. I was like, "Oh."
It's weird. Yeah, I don't necessarily have anything. Oh, Megan has, this is a good story. I remember, I think it was in high school. I pissed her off enough to where she called me I believe it was an inconsiderate asshole. Oh man, that caught me off guard because that takes some thought process to sit there and think of something like that. It's like, holy shit,
That's
I
two
pissed
words.
her off. Yeah, inconsiderate and an asshole. What did I do?
This crazy bitch right here. Call me that?
Yeah, no, but I would never. But yeah, it's those type of arguments, man. Those words that just get people. And then this week, I was actually thinking of other words that just kind of. It's flip side. This isn't trigger words. This is just conversation words. But like the word happy and joy and hope and that kind of how it like makes your thought process change when you see those words. Like when you see the word hope, you instantly start thinking just differently, almost biblical. Mm-hmm. Or like, yeah, Trevor would say like Superman. The word hope is just like, it's a mental change, like a mental shift, something that we've talked about before. Yeah. Or people would use the word happy to kind of, for me, I used to use the word happy as like an excuse. I don't know if you guys have ever done anything like that.
What do you mean by that? Like an excuse?
So let's say like you're going to make a bad decision. Or I mean, for me, it was when I was making stupid decisions in my life. I was, we'll just leave it at that. It's just making stupid decisions.
But it's like, no, I know what you're saying. So now I get it. You're like a false sense of happiness, but you'd say you're happy.
Yeah.
Like,
then,
this sucks, but I'm happy. I'm
yeah,
good.
or
I'm
I'm
happy.
doing it.
Like,
Or
you're
I'm-
convincing yourself, kind of.
Or to the point where you're sitting there saying that the word happy, you're using it as justification, saying, "Oh, I want to do this just because it's going to make me happy. Like I'm not happy now, so I'm going to rationalizing." Yeah, and people give you a pass for it. I remember sitting at the bank and I'd be talking to someone and be like, "Oh man, I'm just not happy. Like I want to be doing this," and they're like, oh, I could see that. Yeah, you should do that. Yeah. And it's like, if you really knew, you probably wouldn't be telling that. But the minute I use the word happy, you're like, oh yeah, who doesn't want to be happy? Of course, yeah, go do what you got to do.
It's the power of words, man.
Yeah, and I feel like happy is the one that gets used probably the most. I mean, you can use it for anything, and I don't even know if it's necessarily true anymore. I don't know if people even understand what happiness really is anymore.
Yeah, where you can use words to distance yourself from the actual emotion you're feeling.
Well, nobody wants to stand in front of somebody's happiness, so of course they're going to be on your side when you're like, oh, I just want to do this because it makes me happy. It's like, oh, well, do you.
Trev, you got to get closer to the mic. You're just either super quiet or you have to pull it up a little bit.
I've been trying to adjust everything.
Speak up, you're going to trigger me, bro.
Yeah, straight up.
Quiet bitches trigger.
No, but it is amazing, like how by saying words and using conversation, you can distance yourself from the actual emotions, the actual honest emotions that you're feeling.
Like for you guys, if I was to say happy, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think the word happy?
Somebody smiling.
Someone smiling.
Just very generic.
That, you know, that like warm feeling that happens when you're truly like in the moment, where you can't help smiling ear to ear. Like something in your life that happens, like whether it's like hanging out with your significant other, you know, if you have the birth of your child, you know, all those moments where you actually can feel emotion coming out of you, you know, almost like an adrenaline rush. When you can feel emotion coming out like that, that's what I think of when I think of happiness. Like, I think there's not a lot of true happiness because there's always caveats to what you perceive as being happy. Like, you could have a promotion at work, but you realize, okay, I'm going to have to work more because of that. So is that really holding back from the happiness you're feeling? Are you just telling yourself you're going to be happy?
Yeah, I always think about that. That's pretty much what triggered it for it. I kind of start using the word triggered. It means different things now, but that's what got that thought process going for me. Is I was thinking about, like, is there ever a truly happy moment? Are you ever truly happy? Because you're always kind of looking for the next happiness after that point. It's almost like a drug where you just sit there like, oh, I'm happy now, and then it goes away, and so you got to look for that happiness again, and so you're never truly happy. And even in a relationship, I mean, how do you ever know that you're actually truly happy? I mean, you almost have to get to a point where you're just content with your happiness. And then it sounds bad, but it's almost become that.
Well, I mean, you just said it at the very beginning of your mini rant there is by saying that moment of happiness. I mean, happiness is only for a split second. And as you say, in relationships, I mean, you almost have to find to where there's not few and far between moments of happiness, and you have those constant like loops of happiness where you're happy constantly,
right?
Or at least not, weeks apart from each other, because then what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, do you guys have a moment in your life where you were truly happy, or that you can remember?
Oh yeah.
Or your happiest moment, your peak, or maybe not peak. You don't want to say you peaked, but you know.
It's all downhill after this.
All downhill after that.
Well, back in when I was 25.
Danny had that one cup of coffee, and it was awesome. After
this
that.
is amazing. Yeah. That was it. It was all downhill from there. No, I think you have multiple happy moments. I think we honestly feel happiness a lot more than we realize, but I think we just shortchange it. We've talked about so many things in this modern times where we are so involved in the moment. I mean, we talked about it on social media podcast. We talked about it when we talked about being confident, all these different things that we shortchange ourselves in. And I think the power of words, where we start thinking of the opposite of what we're actually feeling, because we start thinking of the pros and cons of everything. We're such a pros and cons society, which are two other words that are really good sometimes when you're creating lists for decisions you're going to make. But I think that those words can screw you over a lot too, is looking at the pros and cons of everything, because we don't just act on impulse anymore. We really don't. We talked about it when it comes to dating. Like, if you're going to go out on a date with someone, you automatically want to know the answers to everything about them. You want to know the words they're using, like the grammar thing you were talking about. You want to know all that. So it's like we kind of screw ourselves a little bit by not allowing ourselves to feel emotions. I think we're actually a lot happier than we realize we are, but we just don't let ourselves feel it.
Yeah, the problem that I see with happiness, like, everybody's like, oh, this is the happiest moment of my life, but everything's what have you done for me lately kind of sense. Like, what's the most recent thing that made you happy? And that's like the biggest thing in your life, because that's the most recent thing that you can remember. Like, I remember when my first child was born, I mean, I was mostly scared at that moment, but I mean, it was definitely a happy moment, but I was like more terrified of what was to come next. But when my second child was born, I mean, I was definitely more prepared and, in a better sense of what's going to happen next. So I was definitely a lot more ecstatic for that, just because I knew what was ahead.
Yeah.
The fear of the unknown wasn't present at that point.
So Trev, you would say that, I mean, that whole birth process was like a mix of emotions. It wasn't just happy or sad. It was like all over the place.
Well,
which makes sense.
I think any man, I will say, because women are, I feel like once they get pregnant, they're ready to roll. Like, yeah, they have their doubts or they're scared and whatnot.
So
but once that baby's out,
you're so not a woman.
but once that baby's out, they know exactly what to do. Like their motherhood instincts like take over. As a man, you're just like, oh fuck.
I feel like every woman just got triggered right now. Everyone's like, no, don't speak for me. Don't speak for me.
Yeah, straight
I'm
up.
calling out every woman a great mother instantly.
Yeah.
So I think you're questioning their womanhood.
I don't know. But I was doing some research when you said we were going to talk about trigger words, and the number one word by far that like there's actually articles written online about the word that gets people, and it is moist. That is
the number one word.
That is the number one word. Yeah, there's this article that I was reading, and the
that
name
probably makes people feel a lot more comfortable now because they're just like, okay, I'm not just the crazy person that hates the word moist. The whole freaking world hates that word.
I think maybe just because you can use it in more ways in a sentence, like it can actually be brought up. Whereas like my word cunt can't really be brought up.
Yeah, you can't really bring that up in a normal thing.
It's a normal conversation.
Yeah.
This cunt over here was telling me about.
Trevor, you really got to stop using that word. It's stressing me out.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny.
No, but they were talking about. No, I just can't. I can't say moist after you say that word. But they were like, there was there's an actual visceral reaction that you get from that word. So this guy did a test. This guy named his last name was Paul. His name was Paul Thibodeau. He's a professor of psychology at Oberlin College. Said of moist, it's not a taboo word. It's not profanity, but it elicits a very visceral disgust reaction. And he says, a little less than a quarter of the approximately 2,500 people that they tested in 5 experiments over 4 years had trouble dealing with any appearance of the word. When asked to react to moist in a task, about 1/3 of those people responded with an expression of disgust. And almost 2/3 of those who later reported an aversion were so bothered by quote unquote moist that they could recall its inclusion among a set of 63 other words in an unusually high rate. Like it's stuck out in their mind, the word moist, because that's the reaction they had to it.
That's insane.
Dude, like it doesn't bug. That word does not bug me. I would
Not
be
me
in the
either.
1/3 that it doesn't bug, but 2/3 of 2,500 people, like holy crap, man. That's insane.
Is there a way to fix that? Do you just like get stuck in a freaking grocery aisle and just look at all the cake boxes for like hours on ends, just moist everywhere?
Dude, that's so weird. And the weird thing
It's
is
gonna be
too,
the
is-
next Saw movie. Just boxes
Yeah.
of cake.
Yeah.
Or just somebody saying moist, moist. Ah! Chopping my ears off.
Yeah, it's nuts because it's not the sound of the word, because he did the test on words that rhyme with it. Hoist, joist, rejoice, nothing. Like everyone's fine with that, but it's just somehow the word moist just gets people
Not moist.
yeah, exactly.
That's like,
It strikes a nerve.
Yeah,
I think because they probably associate it with like bodily fluids or something. I think that's
it has
what
to,
it has to
I'm
be.
sure there's a lot of that has to do with the word association. I mean, because you think about it, there's other words out there that kind of make you they mind shift you, make you think of something completely different than what it actually is. Like you were saying earlier, the word naughty used to be back in the day bad. You were doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Tisk, you're being naughty.
Naughty or nice. I mean,
Yeah,
saying
back then
that.
it's
But
like,
now-
okay, well you're gonna get a spanking. Now they've even turned that. They're like, nope, naughty is
Yeah.
just total sexual connotation
Yeah.
now. It's on every Cosmo cover. 35 naughty tips for your man to make him feel like you're amazing in bed. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
They
It's just
changed
like
the
it's
whole
word
meaning.
association changes everything, changes the meaning. I mean, you can't even like winking faces. You send somebody a winking face, and you're like, oh well, you want sex? Period.
She wants the D.
Yeah. Or, but it is crazy how some words can affect you like that. Like you were saying, the word moist. I know with Megan, if you just say the word needle, it's game over. She's like already thinks there's like 30,000 needles around her, and I'm like, how is that even possible?
Gonna
Like,
step on them. Yeah, the brain's crazy.
it doesn't make sense to me. Like to me, like I don't have anything like that. I hate. You guys know I hate snakes to the end of the earth. Like,
Yeah.
but if you just say the word snake, I don't just instantly break
Yeah.
down.
Dude, you start thinking about it. There's so many words like that though that make people that have changed or have different meanings than what they really mean. Steamy. No one thinks of steamy like, okay, the bathroom's all fogged up. People hear the word steamy now, or they read the word steamy, and they're just like, oh yeah, that's another sexual connotation. Like, dude,
Well, that's the problem. You can almost make any word sexual.
I've
Is
literally.
that what happens to our generation? Our generation has ruined the vocabulary.
It's really true. But it's kind of funny too, because when you start looking for words, and you could take any movie. Like I've always said this, You give me like an old classic cartoon or like anything like that, I will ruin it. There's dirty stuff in every single one. And of course, in all the modern ones, everyone knows, the Lion King and, the Little Mermaid castles and all that stuff. But like,
you talking about the sexual innuendos in them, or like the sexual placement?
But like literally that stuff too. But like, you could even look at like 1950s Winnie the Pooh, and you could just like rip that movie. Oh, you could just rip that apart with some of the things they say, and like, oh, it's hilarious. You shall live with me, Piglet. Dude, it's like, oh, okay. Like my siblings would say, don't ruin it for us. My sister would be like, no, don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. I'm never going to look at Winnie the Pooh the same.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, there's those people that they'll sit there and Google like all the crazy stuff from like the older movies, and there's a lot of weird stuff, but I don't know if it's all true. Is that just people just twisting? It's like all the people that, oh, it is true, Trevor. You're saying it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Like legit.
Well, like if you watch Lion King, like how he brought up, like when Simba falls down after he like talks about like the stars being the old kings of the past with Timon and Pumbaa, and they're like laughing about it when he falls on like the grass with all the stuff that flies up.
Yeah.
If you go in slow mo, it spells out sex.
It just seems so like who
looks for that? That's what I want to know. You know that like the guy who drew that frame was like, bro, I'm slipping this in here.
Nobody will ever know.
Because I mean, that's something like a jokester would do. I could see myself doing that, bro. I'm sneaking this in. It's like the whole Fight Club thing, you know, or like he splices in one little piece of porn into like the kids movie or whatever, and then shows it in the theater. And it's like, they know they saw it.
Yeah.
Well, just like in Little Mermaid too, when Ursula's getting married to the prince, the priest or whatever has a boner.
Yeah, that is true. You've never seen that?
No, I haven't delved into this deep enough.
Yeah, I think you have to watch the VHS.
Yeah,
it's
his, Megan's saying it's his knee. Okay.
See? Bullshit.
It's a big knee.
He's such a little man. There's no way that knee went that high.
Oh man,
they're ruining it. You guys are ruining it for me now.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something on Aladdin.
I knew that there was that stuff in there. I didn't know if it was legit or if it was just the internet being the internet, because the internet can do crazy things with anything.
I think
it's like almost like the fucking movie. What's it with Jim Carrey? The number 20. Is it number 23? Where everything just adds up to 23, and it's just like a giant conspiracy. It's like,
and then you start realizing that anything you can rationalize anything.
Exactly. So like these movies or like anything like that. It's just. But I mean, if there's an actual scene in a movie where it spells out sex, I mean, I guess you can't really digitally change that in everybody's VHS.
It's true. And another thing too about these trigger words is like, we've been talking about pretty harmless little ones, bad names for people and like all that kind of stuff. But now you have a whole movement of people with trigger words where it's getting taken to the other extreme, where it's like, oh, what you just said about, this certain gender or race or anything like that. Well, that triggered me, even though I don't agree with that or whatnot. And then it becomes a huge issue.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the dark side of it now. We've talked about all the fun stuff and all the goofy stuff and laughed about it. But now you have this whole weird thing going on with trigger words and being triggered. Because when I was
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, when you start looking up stuff, like just looking up a list of trigger words, all that comes up is like all these things from different websites that are totally on one side of the polar opposite of politics. You'll either have the conservative people that are saying trigger words are just ridiculous, and then you'll have all the people like on the liberal side or like like a feminist website. Well, they will just have a whole thing supporting trigger words, and that's the dark side of it now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, and it goes into marketing and stuff too. I mean, like you were saying, with the word just naughty, if you market it enough, that it becomes that definition. You start doing it with the political stuff or even like religion. You start, Muslim is automatically, oh, Muslim's bad. Market it enough, that's just what people are going to get triggered to think. Not necessarily that's what we think, but that you start marketing it enough, that's what some people might think. And that some is a lot of people. I mean, if you think about how many people are on the world, you get a majority of that. I mean, that's all it takes. Or other things like not just Muslim, the word snowflake. The word snowflake gets thrown around so much now. And snowflake it's a freaking snowflake. It's supposed to be
a beautiful
ice.
thing. We cut snowflakes out of paper.
Now you
school.
call somebody a snowflake. It's not so beautiful anymore. People get pissed. Talk about getting triggered. People are going to get like angry about that. And it's just like the word association is so strong now, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, then you have it gets even worse too, because then you have like things that are racist or different other words like that where it's rightfully being triggered. If you call someone a racial slur, that's going to trigger them in a righteous way for them. You know what I mean? There's so many sides to the fence on it when you get into the serious side of the topic that it hurts my mind.
Do you think there's a way to fix yourself from getting angry like that, or you're that mind shift, like you said, like when I was talking about with Megan with the whole needles thing? You think there's a way to fix that, or it's just like it's built into your brain?
There has to be a way. I mean, you can't just be like triggered by that word forever. I mean, there has to be a way that you can somewhat conquer that. I mean,
like decondition yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're conditioned to see these words a certain way. I mean, the word moist wasn't always the worst word in the world.
No,
it became that way at some point. But is it too far gone now? Is it always going to be that word?
Everything phases out. I think just over generations.
Kind of like fear in a sense too.
Yeah. In a couple of generations, our kids won't even use the same words we do. I mean, you look back 150 years ago, they were using words we don't use now. Totally different meanings.
We don't want to know those words. That's how
exactly. Yeah. They did a horror movie that was like using 17th century English, and I couldn't understand 3 out of the 5 words they were saying, and it was English, for God's sake. I mean, it was tough, and I was like, that is our language, but a couple hundred years ago. So it's going to be totally different. It's going to be straight up emojis, just emojis.
Good God.
You mean hieroglyphics?
Exactly, modern day.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody have anything else about being triggered or anything like that?
Let's not get triggered over stupid stuff. That's the thing. I think that's the main thing. Obviously, words like moist might actually affect people because it's a physiological response, apparently. After looking up that study, I believe it now. But just little things, things that are tied to fears and phobias, that's going to be tougher to get over because you're hardwired that way. But these political triggerings and all that kind of stuff is stuff that you can get over if you just start realizing that maybe the other person isn't that bad. You know what I mean? Calling someone like a racist word, or calling someone a snowflake, or doing that kind of stuff. Like, do we really need to do that? Like, I like that quote, and I posted something on Instagram about it. But that quote that Aubrey Marcus uses, the CEO from On It, "I am you living a different life." Mm-hmm. Like, that is the way you should just imagine everything, and then all these bullshit triggered things will go away. That part can go away. I don't know about the physiological stuff. I think moist is always going to be a word for our generation, at least, that's going to trigger a lot of people. But
yeah, no, definitely.
But the silly triggering stuff, we could do away with that.
I think that's our problem with our generation, is that once we get triggered by something, we just go off the deep end, and we just need to be able to control our emotions to where we can, you can still get triggered by it.
Isn't that the whole point, though? The whole point of getting that crazy emotion, that's the whole point of the word driving you crazy, is to push you over that edge. That's why it's called being triggered. I mean,
yeah, but you shouldn't go like ape shit crazy on somebody for saying moist.
I think people dig their feet in too deep. That's what it is. People dig they pick a side on something, and then they will say, "Oh, you know what? This word has to trigger me now because I associate myself with these people or whatnot." Right. And then there's a lot of fake triggering. Sorry if I stole that from you.
No, yeah, that's kind of where I was going to get at. I mean, to that point, because like yesterday when you brought up the Falcons, I lost my shit.
You did.
But I associate myself with the Falcons, so it's like I got triggered hard. Like, I lost it.
I found myself like defending Tom Brady and like the Patriots, and I can't stand them, and I'm defending them against Noel because Noel's digging his feet in on the Falcons.
Oh man, it's weird because your emotion changes. Like, I was totally fine, and all of a sudden just something clicked.
It did too. Like, I saw the eyes. The eyes glazed over, and I was just like, "Oh man!"
But I could see that. So, and then when people using it with like the political stuff, like certain words, I could see where they would just instantly. They might even change their characteristics, be completely different than they normally would be because of something that just, like we keep saying, it just emotionally changing them, being triggered. But it's a crazy thought, and it's crazy to think that certain words like we've been talking about can completely change your view on certain things, even when it comes to just simple words like happy, joy, hope. And you just got to try to find the right words and use them to benefit you, not put you in a bad state of mind. That's all for today's episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast on SoundCloud or iTunes to get all updates on future content. And just remember, it's not important who's right or wrong, but it's always important to ask why.